She looked me in the eyes and said, "It's just work, you don't have to worry." But 2 weeks later, I saw her hand in another man's on a beach she said she'd never been to. That was the day I stopped believing in coincidences. My name's Daniel. I'm 34. For most of my adult life, I believed in hard work, loyalty, and love that doesn't break under pressure. For 10 years, I thought my wife Melissa believed in the same things. We met in college, the kind of meeting that feels like fate when you're young and naive. She spilled coffee on my notes in the library. I laughed. She didn't. But a week later, she asked if I wanted to study together. That's how it started. She was sharp, ambitious, independent, with this energy that drew people in. When we married 6 years later, everyone said we were the couple that made sense. She worked in marketing. I managed IT contracts for a consulting firm. We both had stable jobs, no kids, just plans. For a house, for trips, for someday. For a long time, things were good. We had a rhythm. Coffee together every morning, late-night shows when work didn't get in the way, quiet weekends. But that changed when her company merged with a larger firm. Suddenly, there were strategy meetings, client dinners, team-building weekends. I wanted to be supportive. I was proud of her drive. But slowly, those meetings started to stretch. A few hours became full nights. A few days turned into week-long business trips. She'd call every night just long enough to say she missed me, then hang up before I could ask how her day was. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't giving her enough attention. Maybe she was just busy. But there's a difference between busy and distant. I noticed small things. Her perfume changing. Her laughter over texts she wouldn't show me. The way she started locking her phone screen the moment I walked by. Still, I told myself, don't overthink. She wouldn't do that to you. Then came the conference, a 5-day leadership retreat in Maui. Her company was sending their top performers. She was excited, said it was a big step for her career. When she packed, I offered to drive her to the airport. She said, "No need, the company's arranging everything." She kissed me goodbye with that same soft smile I'd fallen for. And for a while I convinced myself it was real. But something about that week felt off. Her messages were delayed. Her calls got shorter. And one night, when she sent me a photo of her view from the hotel, something caught my eye. Her reflection, faint, but there. In the glass behind her, a man's arm, a watch I didn't recognize. I stared at it for a long time, convincing myself it was nothing. But deep down, I already knew. But what I discovered next didn't just break my heart. It changed the way I saw everything about her. That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house felt louder than usual. The ticking clock, the hum of the fridge, my own heartbeat. I kept looking at that photo. The ocean behind her, the reflection in the glass, that hand. It wasn't mine. And the way she leaned toward whoever was behind that camera, it wasn't casual. It was comfortable, familiar. I wanted to be wrong. So I told myself to stop imagining things. But something inside me, that quiet voice you try to ignore when you don't want the truth, me kept whispering, "Look closer. Look." The next morning I opened my laptop. Melissa's company website listed all their departments, including the event schedule for that retreat. I scrolled. Nowhere did I find a leadership conference in Maui. Nothing. Still, maybe it was private. Maybe it wasn't publicized. I went to her social media next. Everything looked normal. Vacation photos, work posts, old memories. But when I checked her tagged section, I noticed something strange. One of her co-workers, someone I'd seen once at a holiday party, had posted a beach picture 2 days earlier. Same view, same hotel. And in the background, Melissa. Not at a conference table, not in a blazer, in a sundress, holding a cocktail, sitting close, too close, to a man I didn't recognize. My hands went cold. I zoomed in, his arm around her. Their fingers interlocked under the table. The caption said, "When business feels like paradise." I stared at it for minutes that felt like hours. I couldn't breathe. For a while I sat in silence. Part of me wanted to call her right then, to demand an explanation. But another part stayed calm. A strange kind of calm, because I realized something important. If she was lying to me, I didn't want to confront her with emotion. I wanted facts, proof she couldn't twist. So I started planning. I called her office, pretending to be a client. The receptionist said Melissa was on vacation. Not a work trip. Vacation. That single word told me everything I needed to know. I didn't hang up right away. I asked, "Do you know where she went?" The woman laughed. "Oh, everyone's jealous. Maui." My chest tightened. That was the moment I stopped hoping for an explanation, because now I had one, and it hurt more than I expected. I booked a flight that afternoon, not to chase her, but to end something I no longer recognized. A part of me still hoped I'd find her alone, that all this was a misunderstanding. But deep down, I already knew the truth. The flight to Maui was long. I didn't sleep, didn't watch movies, just stared out the window, replaying every moment of our marriage. The laughter, the promises, the nights she'd told me, "You're my forever." I realized how fragile those words are when someone stops meaning them. When I landed, I went straight to the resort. It was the same one from the photos. White walls, turquoise pools, couples walking hand in hand through palm-lined paths. I asked for her at the front desk. The clerk smiled and said, "Mr. and Mrs. Evans checked in 3 days ago." My last name isn't Evans. For a second, I felt my stomach drop. Then, I smiled. Because now I had confirmation. She hadn't just cheated. She'd created a new life, a fantasy, and given it our wedding rings' names. The clerk asked if I needed to leave a message. I said no. I needed something else first. I walked the property, pretending to be another tourist. And then, I saw them. On a private patio near the water, Melissa laughing, her head tilted back the way she used to when she was happy. The man beside her poured wine into her glass, brushing his hand against hers. Their fingers lingered, easy, natural, rehearsed. They looked like newlyweds, and maybe in their fantasy they were. She wore the same necklace I gave her on our anniversary, the one she said she never took off because it reminded her of us. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. That image burned itself into my mind, her joy, his touch, the lie of it all. I didn't make a scene. I didn't approach. Instead, I took out my phone. A few pictures. Clear enough to capture the truth she'd been hiding. Then I walked away before she could see me. Back in my hotel room, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at those photos. I felt nothing. Not anger, not heartbreak. Just silence. The kind of silence that comes after a storm. I thought about calling her, telling her I was there. But something told me to wait. To make her reveal herself. To let her think her secret was still safe. That night she texted me, "Miss you, wish you were here." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "Me too. Can't wait to see you when you get back." She had no idea that when she returned home, I wouldn't be waiting. I'd be gone. But not before she'd learn what it feels like to lose everything she lied to protect. But when I finally decided how to expose her, I realized revenge wasn't just about payback. It was about peace. And peace, I learned, can be ruthless too. The next morning I watched the sunrise over the ocean. It was strange, peaceful, almost beautiful. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel trapped by questions. I had the answers now. All of them. I checked out of the resort across the street and booked a private dinner at the same restaurant they'd been to the night before. A small cliffside place overlooking the water. I reserved the table right next to theirs. Same time, same view. That night, I dressed simply. Jeans, a white shirt, nothing dramatic. This wasn't about making a scene. It was about ending one. When I arrived, they were already there. laughing, holding hands across the table, sharing a bottle of wine. She didn't see me at first, but when she finally looked up and caught my reflection in the glass, her smile froze. It was the smallest flicker, a split second of pure shock, before she tried to compose herself. The man beside her turned, confused. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her, calm, steady, quiet, and for the first time she couldn't hide behind a story. I walked over slowly as if time itself had slowed down for this moment. She whispered my name, Daniel, as if saying it might make me disappear. I smiled. Hello, Melissa. Business trip going well? The man frowned. You know him? Her voice cracked. It's my husband. That word hung in the air like a stone dropped in water. Husband. The man's face changed instantly. The charm drained out of him. He pushed his chair back. You said you were separated. She opened her mouth, searching for something, anything, to say, but I didn't give her the chance. I placed my phone on the table, the screen glowing with the photos I'd taken of them together. I guess you didn't tell him the full story, I said quietly. No shouting, no anger, just truth, pure and undeniable. The man stood up, muttered something under his breath, and walked away. She reached for me, but I stepped back. I came here because I wanted to see if it was real, I said. If the woman I married still existed somewhere beneath all this. Her eyes filled with tears. Daniel, please, I made a mistake. I stopped her with a hand gesture. No, you made a choice. There's a difference. The restaurant had gone quiet around us, just the sound of waves below and soft music in the background. For a moment, she looked small, fragile, and I realized something I hadn't before. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me, about who I wanted to be after this moment ended. I leaned closer, my voice low but steady. I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to fix anything. I'm here to end it. Then I took off my wedding ring and placed it next to her glass of wine. She stared at it like it was something foreign, something she didn't deserve to touch. I didn't wait for her to speak. I simply turned and walked away, leaving the ocean and the noise behind. She called after me once, twice, but I didn't look back. Back in my hotel room, I drafted a single email, short, simple. I saw everything. The marriage is over. You'll find the divorce papers when you return. No emotion, no explanation. Just the truth signed with my name. Then I attached the photos, not to embarrass her, just to close the door completely. When I hit send, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. The next morning, I took a walk along the same beach where I'd seen her laughing. It was quiet now. The waves rolled in soft, steady patterns and like time washing everything away. I didn't hate her. I didn't even wish her pain. What she'd done had already punished her more than anything I could have planned. Because she'd lost something she could never replace. My trust. Before I left the island, I asked the hotel to charge her credit card for my entire stay. After all, it was a company trip. A small detail. Poetic, maybe. But it made me smile. As the plane lifted off, I looked down one last time at the ocean. I thought about how easy it is for love to turn into lies, and how sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's dignity. But the real closure didn't come from walking away. It came from what happened after she came home, and realized I was already gone. When I landed back home, the house felt different. Quieter. Not the kind of quiet that hurts. The kind that heals. The air smelled of her perfume faintly, still hanging in the walls. Her shoes by the door, her coat on the rack. Ghosts of a life that had already ended. I didn't pack her things right away. Instead, I sat on the couch, the same place where we'd spent so many nights talking about the future. And I realized every plan we'd made was built on an illusion. But that didn't mean I was broken. The next few days were simple. I closed joint accounts, changed passwords. I even sent her a polite message, "Your things are packed. You can pick them up when I'm not home." She didn't reply, but I knew she would eventually. They always do, when the silence becomes louder than any confrontation. When she finally came by, I wasn't there. Just a small box on the porch with her initials on it. Inside, her ring, a few photos, and a note that said, "Some trips can't be undone. Some homes can't be returned to. I wish you peace." Later that night, I received a message from her. A long paragraph of apologies, explanations, and regret. I didn't read all of it. I didn't need to. Because sometimes closure doesn't come from what they say. It comes from what you choose not to answer. For the first time in months, I slept soundly. No dreams, no noise. Just peace. Months passed. I moved to a new place. Smaller, quieter, closer to the coast. Sometimes I still catch a glimpse of couples walking hand in hand and wonder how something so pure can turn so fragile. But I don't carry bitterness anymore. One evening I walked along the pier at sunset, the same time of day I had last seen her face. I realized something important. Revenge doesn't always mean destroying the other person. Sometimes it means rebuilding yourself in a way they can never reach again. I didn't post about it. Didn't tell friends the full story. I let silence do the talking. Because silence, I've learned, can be the loudest kind of revenge. She lost a husband. I lost an illusion. And in that trade I came out ahead. I didn't win her back. But I did win my peace. What would you have done if your spouse's business trip turned into a secret honeymoon? Tell me in the comments. And remember, sometimes the calmest revenge is walking away without a word.